Is it okay for Agile teams to write user story and include technical language? On today's video, my goal is to answer this question and also discuss some typical mistakes Agile teams makes while creating user stories and what are some things we can do to help improve our ways in writing user stories. Welcome back to Aisha Scrum platform. I'm very happy to have you all join my platform. For my current subscribers and my new subscribers, I welcome you all to the channel. And if you've been finding my content valuable, please like and subscribe to this channel. I really will appreciate it. So the number one thing I have on my board about when it comes to anti-partterns and mistakes Agile team makes when creating user story is having a user story and using technical language. That should not be a way to write user story. It's very important for Agile teams to write user story where you and I, that's technical or not technical, can understand what the story is all about, right? It's very important for everyone in the team to be able to read and understand what's in there, and also for people that's not in the team. So if as a Scrum Master, you see a user story you cannot read and you cannot understand what it's all about, that's an anti-pattern. And you should definitely coach the team and discuss the team on better ways you can ensure that this can be written in a format whereby the developers and anyone else outside the team can understand what all the story is all about. So that's number one point. The next point that we have on the board is written in the point of the builder. That's something that I've seen a lot of times so far in my experience working as a Scrum Master and also as an Agile coach, whereby I will see on the team, whereby I'm looking at user stories, I see it's written as a product owner and as the developer, as a tester, or as a designer. User story should never be in the point of the one writing the story or the one doing the build or the one that will be testing the story. At all given time, we should ensure that the user story is written in the point of view of the end user, the person that will be benefiting from that story. So as a Scrum Master, if you look at your backlog before your sprint start and you notice that some of those stories are addressing the people building it, you should call it out. Very important. Don't just see it and it's like, oh, what is that about? And then at the end of the day, if you read that the following description, you notice that there's no alignment. One will be addressing the one building it. The next thing will now describing how they should build it. Instead, should focus on who is using it or what's the goal or the benefit of what they want, right? That's very important. So the next anti-pattern I have on my board is not having the benefits, right? Sometimes you will see a user story that will be written what the user wants, right? They'll describe, oh, they want this, they want that, they want this. They write all these different description on what they want. At the end of the day, we always will forget the benefit of having that, right? Why is this benefit to this user? Why is that beneficial or valuable to the person using that story? And it's important we have this in our user story because then it gives the developers motivations to know that, I'm having this build so that these people or this person or these customers, they can able to do this. And by them knowing that value, even motivate them even further to see the good impact they are creating in their environment, right? I've worked in healthcare industry for the most part of my career. And for us, whenever we see the impact we were doing, it's always like you see the excitement in the people that's actually doing the build, right? And imagine now as a Scrum Master or as a team, you're writing a user story, you're just writing the acts and basically not discussing how it can impact the team, right? Sometimes people be demotivated. So ensure that at all time when you have a user story, you should also address the benefit of having that user story. And if you are interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email us at admin@aishascrumtech.com. We have a lot of wonderful coaches and trainers in Aisha Tech for people that are interested in joining the Agile space for first time, or you are going through interview, you're failing through your interviews, or you are struggling on the job. We have a lot of coaches in Aisha Tech that can help you in this process. do not hesitate to email us or call us in the description down below. And also, if you have any question or comments or concerns, always also use the comment section. I'm very responsive. If not me, my other colleagues too will always respond to your questions in our Scrum below, in our Scrum, in our chat description below. All right, so let's get back to the video. So the next thing I have on my board is acceptance criteria not focused on the end user. That's another big one, right? Sometimes we'll see a user story where they will have an acceptance criteria. I'm not going to give just one way of writing acceptance criteria. I know every company's out there, they use different ways of doing Agile. Some people use the BDD, which is the behavioral driven development technique, to write their acceptance criteria. And that's where the given, when, then technique will come in. Some people too also use the TDD, which is the test driven development, or ATDD, which is acceptance test driven development. They might use all these different ways to collaborate with the testers, where they can write their test cases, and then the developers will sometimes build their code around that, and then they can hence focus on the behavior of the user, right? So I won't just say you have to use one technique or one approach. You always have to follow your company's policy as always, right? But just ensure that it's always at all time focus on the people that's using it, right? And then it makes everything so easy. It helps the testers too when they're doing their test or writing their test cases. It also helps the team and everyone else to know the purpose of this. So ensure that a user story should have an acceptance criteria. A user story without an acceptance criteria is like, how can I make an example of this? It's like you saying you are going to school, but you are not reading your books. Just kidding. I don't know what different example to give this, but it's very important to ensure that all user story have an acceptance criteria. I don't know myself. I know when I was a new Scrum Master, I've seen a lot of cases where I will see some teams, they'll write user stories, they'll write the acts, but there will be no acceptance criteria. And think about it. If there's no acceptance criteria, so what are some techniques the PO can use to ensure that they can validate the acts at the end of the test? Because sometimes we have some POs that will review all the stories and ensure that it meets those criteria before they accept it for it to be closed, right? Hopefully that also is part of the definition of done. But it's very important to ensure that a user story will have an acceptance criteria. If your user story do not have acceptance criteria, guess what? That's an anti-pattern. All right, so let's go back to the video. Not including feedback from stakeholders. So that's going back to writing user stories, because sometimes teams that are not as experienced, or sometimes that are immature teams that are new to Agile, whereby they will write user stories, and then at the end of the sprint, let's say they might not deliver that the way how the stakeholder will want, they will do the demo and they will decline it. And then team will not ensure that they also add those feedback they have from the stakeholders. It's very important for us to always not just write story, because that's how the structural or the mock-ups or the diagram read it, how it should look like, but also think about people over process, right? So, look at me going back to the Agile Manifesto, right? Always think about the people using it, right? If you put yourself in their shoe, you think about the people, it will always help you to ensure that you are also including some of those feedback in your next user story, right? It's an anti-pattern where you just follow a diagram or you follow a whole list of this process and not also put in account the stakeholder in your creation of your user story. So ensure at all times as a team, you look at all of that as you are writing your user story, or you are also discussing the next user story that the team want to write. The next thing I have in the book, because sometimes, let me even address this question where people sometimes will ask Aisha, who writes user stories? Or is a Scrum Master, can Scrum Master write user stories? Can Product Owner write user story? Can Development Team write user story? To be honest, it's not just one person's responsibility for a user story, for us to ensure that user story is written, right? It is true, the product owner is the master of the backlog. They prioritize stories. They help decide and let us know what next for us to work on, right? And at the same time, they have to ensure that what the stakeholders want and all of that also reflect on what's in the backlog, right? But it did not say anywhere in the book that it's only a product owner that will write user story. I'm 100% against that. Myself, when I was new, I learned how to write user story. And to be honest, I would say that I've contributed greatly in my career for me knowing how to also coach and write user story. Imagine this as a Scrum Master, right? If you want to say that you are supporting a whole Scrum team, remember, the product owner is also part of the Scrum team. You should be able to know how to coach a product owner on the better technique and ways to write user stories. But if you yourself as the Scrum Master, you don't know the techniques and better ways to write user story, how can you coach the product owner or help ensure that the product owner writes the stories the right way, right? So that's why I will highly encourage everyone out there, if you're a Scrum Master, or also learn techniques, ways how to write user stories so that you can better support your team when they're writing user stories. So you can able to also call out some of these mistakes and anti-partners as you notice them. It's not only a product owner's responsibility to ensure that we have user story, but I totally agree that as those stories are created by anyone in the team, the product owner should definitely give the approval. Oh yes, that's something that's related to what the stakeholder wants, or no, that's something that we do not agree. But through discussion, which you all will have in your backlog refinement or in your sprint planning, there you all should have that discussion. But it's an anti-pattern if a team just creates a story and just dump it in the sprint without getting the approval from a PO. Always at all time, Agile teams should work collaboratively with one another and also help ensure that we are all having that mindset of we are all responsible for everything. But there's some authorities that we've already have in place, like backlog, prioritization, all of that. It's the PO, right? Facilitation is the Scrum Master, but some things need to be shared amongst the team. And if this has been valuable to you, like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. And thank you so much for watching all the video. If you're interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email me at admin@aishascrumtech.com. And thank you all for watching this video. See you all again in our next video.